There exists a peculiar, often insidious kind of success that exacts an extraordinarily steep price. It is the success lauded by society, validated by external acclaim, and celebrated with enthusiastic applause, yet it demands an untenable trade-off, a profound and isolating distancing from one's own truth. In the relentless pursuit of this coveted success, countless individuals embark on journeys to construct formidable careers, tirelessly seek widespread recognition, and diligently accumulate an impressive array of achievements. But amidst this fervent striving, often imperceptibly at first, something absolutely fundamental begins. Its slow, agonizing unraveling. This erosion isn't immediately visible to the naked eye, nor is it instantly palpable in its onset, yet its chilling reality is undeniable. The intrinsic and deeply vital bond with one's own identity starts to fracture. The contemporary world, with its relentless pace and pervasive influence, bombards us with an overwhelming array of prefabricated pathways, seemingly infallible life models, and universally celebrated goals that promise ultimate fulfillment. These blueprints for living are often presented with such conviction that they become almost irresistible. However, every single time one steps onto these well-trodden paths, without engaging in rigorous, critical self-inquiry, without pausing to question their intrinsic alignment, a profound risk materializes. It's the risk that upon the eventual attainment of these deeply desired aspirations, the prevailing sensation isn't one of unbridled triumph or genuine satisfaction. Instead, it's a perplexing, unsettling sense of estrangement. This feeling manifests as an internal misalignment, an uncomfortable dissonance that is extraordinarily challenging to articulate, often struggling to find a coherent voice or a recognized space for its acknowledgement in a world obsessed with outward metrics. It's a silent scream from the soul, echoing in the hollow chambers of a life built on foundations that aren't truly its own. The price of false success. Carl Jung, the visionary depth psychologist, did not perceive or define success in the conventional, outwardly focused terms that permeate our modern discourse. For him, the very essence of genuine triumph was not about the grandiose act of conquering the external world, accumulating wealth, power, or fame, but rather about the far more profound and challenging task of preserving the integrity of the soul throughout the arduous and often winding journey of life. He understood that true success lay in maintaining an unwavering fidelity to one's inner essence, even in the face of immense external pressures and temptations. When this profound integrity of the soul is compromised, when one deviates from their authentic core, the sheer number of steps climbed on the ladder of societal achievement or the impressive tally of accolades received becomes utterly inconsequential. In fact, these external markers can paradoxically amplify the internal void. Something deep within the individual remains suspended, caught in a state of arrested development, fragmented into disconnected pieces, perpetually yearning for reconciliation and reintegration. It's a psychic wound that festers, silently demanding attention. Jung's perspective is not an ascetic call to reject the world wholesale, nor is it a romanticized endorsement of escapism from life's responsibilities. Quite the contrary, it is a clarion call to reclaim one's intrinsic center, to find and anchor oneself firmly in the core of one's being. It's about experiencing the liberating sensation of being genuinely authentic in your decisions once more, allowing your choices to spring forth from a place of deep inner truth rather than external compulsion or societal expectation. It's a vital reminder that any form of success that overtly demands or subtly necessitates an act of self-betrayal is, at its absolute best, a deeply misguided and poorly negotiated deal with your own soul. The cost far outweighs any superficial gain. This profound realization pivots the critical inquiry away from superficial metrics. The truly salient question ceases to be merely, what have you achieved in the eyes of the world? Instead, it transforms into a far more piercing and introspective query. Who did you have to stop being? What essential parts of yourself did you have to sacrifice or suppress in order to arrive at this point? This powerful question serves as an urgent invitation, a summons to pause, not to summarily abandon your life's journey, but to thoughtfully and courageously redirect it. It's an internal compass recalibration. This entire exploration becomes a candid and empathetic conversation intended for those who have already, perhaps intuitively, discerned the undeniable existence of certain voids that the loudest applause can never truly fill. It's for individuals who, even if vaguely at first, sense a profound and essential something within themselves that still awaits rescue, a dormant truth yearning to be awakened and reintegrated. This journey offers no rigid formulas, no pre-packaged, ready-made answers that fit every unique individual. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. Instead, it offers a singular, yet profoundly liberating direction to courageously return to oneself, fearlessly embracing the process of relinquishing what was never truly yours to begin with. This means shedding the false identities, the imposed expectations, and the societal narratives that have stifled your authentic growth. You might presently harbor the comforting illusion that you are entirely in control of your destiny, meticulously steering the ship of your life. But take a moment, a genuine, unhurried moment, to reflect deeply on your recent actions and choices. How many of your most recent decisions were genuinely and authentically yours? Did they spring from your core desires and values, or were they dictated by external pressures or the need to conform? How many times did you utter a reflexive yes when your innermost being, your gut feeling, screamed an emphatic no? How often have you accepted effusive compliments and celebrated external achievements that deep down didn't even resonate with your spirit, leaving you feeling hollow rather than fulfilled? These are the subtle yet potent indicators of a life lived out of alignment, living versus performing. There exists a colossal, fundamental distinction between genuinely living a life, an existence rich with authentic experience, intrinsic motivation, and resonant purpose, and merely performing a life, an existence characterized by acting out a role, fulfilling external expectations, and maintaining a carefully curated facade. And regrettably, a multitude of individuals, perhaps including you, find themselves inextricably caught in the intricate web of a role they have learned to inhabit with such unparalleled mastery that they can no longer discern the precise boundary where the meticulously crafted performance ceases and their authentic, unfiltered self truly begins. This profound blurring of lines is not merely an abstract psychological concept. It is a lived, deeply felt reality for many. This intricate phenomenon of self-dissociation is precisely what the eminent Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung meticulously referred to as identification with the persona. It's crucial to understand that here, we are not delving into an arcane theoretical construct confined to academic texts. Instead, we are scrutinizing the very fabric of your everyday existence, examining the subtle yet pervasive ways this identification manifests in your routine, interactions and behaviors. Consider, for instance, your conduct within the professional sphere at work, how you meticulously calibrate your words, consciously modulating your tone and even your body language, all in an effort to project an unshakable image of professionalism, unwavering competence and absolute composure. This isn't necessarily negative in itself, but when it becomes your only mode of operation, a problem arises. Reflect on your interactions with your circle of friends, the subtle, often unconscious adjustments you make to appear perpetually pleasant, universally agreeable, or endlessly accommodating. perhaps suppressing genuine disagreement or fatigue. Ponder the intricate dynamics within your family, the emotional modifications you routinely undertake to seamlessly fit into specific familial situations, to avoid conflict, or to maintain a particular perception of yourself, even when every fiber of your being yearns to overflow with genuine, unfiltered emotion, unvarnished truth, or an uninhibited expression of your authentic feelings. This constant self-editing, this perpetual recalibration of your inner landscape to match external expectations, is a hallmark of persona identification. The relentless act of constantly performing is not merely physically and mentally draining. It is, more profoundly, an act of profound alienation from the self. When your primary mode of engagement with the world is through a constructed persona, you inevitably begin to construct relationships founded entirely upon the meticulously crafted and projected image you present, rather than upon the intrinsic, unvarnished essence you truly embody. The connections you form are with the mask, not with the genuine person behind it. Consequently, regardless of how many people surround you, how vast your social network, or how frequently you're in company, an insidious and deeply unsettling loneliness invariably begins to creep into your being. This is not the superficial loneliness of physical solitude. It is a far more distressing, existential isolation, the agonizing realization that even those closest to you do not, and perhaps cannot, truly know the real you. And perhaps most unsettling and tragically, you might ultimately arrive at the devastating conclusion that even you yourself no longer truly know or recognize who you genuinely are beneath the layers of performance. The internal compass becomes disoriented, and the sense of self, once a guiding star, dims into a faint, unrecognizable flicker. This insidious disconnection from the self is rarely an abrupt, cataclysmic event. It doesn't manifest overnight with a sudden, shocking revelation. Instead, it subtly infiltrates the very core of your existence, establishing its foothold by almost imperceptible degrees. It commences with seemingly minor, innocuous concessions, swallowing a fleeting annoyance. Here, passively accepting an unspoken expectation there, you begin a meticulous process of measuring your words, consciously editing your natural spontaneity, meticulously pruning any impulses that might deviate from your perfected role. This gradual erosion continues day by day until one morning, you awaken with a disquieting, pervasive sensation, the unsettling feeling that life is inexorably unfolding, rushing past you, yet you are somehow not genuinely in it. You are an observer of your own life, rather than its active participant. And herein lies the profound and inherent danger. The external world, blissfully unaware of your internal struggle, will persistently applaud your impeccable performance. It will continue to lavish you with rewards, promoting you within your career, praising your apparent conformity and diligence, commending you for seemingly being on the right track according to its predefined metrics of success. Yet, tragically, no one on the outside will perceive the gaping, ever-widening hole that is silently opening up within your inner landscape. This internal void, this growing chasm of disconnection, remains exquisitely silent, utterly invisible to external scrutiny. Moreover, it is often tragically socially acceptable, as long as you remain outwardly functional, productive, and agreeable. Society, in its superficiality, rarely questions the depth of your pain or the authenticity of your being. As long as your performance remains impeccable and your output consistent. But that pain, that profound internal distress, is undeniably there. and it manifests itself in a myriad of perplexing, often debilitating ways, in inexplicable bouts of anxiety, crises that seemingly arise without any clear external trigger, in restless, tormenting, sleepless nights spent wrestling with an undefined sense of unease or dread, in a gnawing, persistent emptiness that not even the most coveted, outwardly impressive success can adequately fill. The truth, though harsh, is undeniably necessary to confront. If you stubbornly persist in this perpetual state of performing, if you continue to prioritize external validation over internal authenticity, you will, with chilling certainty, forget how to truly be yourself. The muscles of your authentic self will atrophy. And when that tragic moment arrives, when the mask irrevocably fuses with the face, nothing substantial remains, only a highly productive, outwardly successful body, tragically empty of its soul, devoid of genuine vitality and intrinsic meaning. Therefore, before you become utterly and irrevocably lost in the relentless pursuit of an external ideal, before the distinction between your true self and your persona completely dissolves, it is not merely advisable, but imperative to initiate a profound pause. This must be a brutally honest pause, one that compels you to confront a vital, searing question. Who is this version of myself that I am so meticulously presenting to the world? And what essential, irreplaceable part of my true self is being suffocated, diminished, or even extinguished within me for this performance to exist? This is the moment to rip off the bandage and face the unvarnished truth of your inner landscape, the trap of conventional success. From the earliest stages of your life, you were meticulously conditioned, explicitly and implicitly, to embrace the pervasive belief that success is intrinsically synonymous with fulfillment. This narrative, deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness, dictates a clear and seemingly straightforward path. Simply acquire that prestigious diploma, diligently secure a stable and reputable job, and meticulously achieve a comfortable level of financial independence. The promise dangled before you is that once these milestones are met, everything else will miraculously fall into its rightful place, culminating in a life of profound satisfaction and genuine happiness. This is the societal blueprint for a good life, relentlessly reinforced by educational institutions, pervasive media, cultural norms, and even the well-meaning guidance of loved ones. It's a compelling, often irresistible vision. However, a profoundly crucial piece of this grand, alluring narrative is conspicuously absent. No one, absolutely no one, ever cautions you that it is entirely possible, even probable for some, to achieve all of these outwardly defined markers of success. The glittering resume, the impressive bank account, the respected title, and still feel profoundly, inexplicably lost. This isn't merely a fleeting sense of dissatisfaction, it's a deep, existential void. The reason for this stark, often agonizing disconnect lies in a fundamental and insidious misalignment. The very type of success that the world so eagerly offers, the kind it relentlessly urges you to pursue, rarely, if ever, genuinely resonates with or truly addresses the deepest, most authentic needs of your soul. Your intrinsic purpose, your unique passions, your spiritual longings. These are often overlooked or actively suppressed in the scramble for external validation. The inherent problem, therefore, is not with the concept of success itself, nor with the admirable human capacity for ambition or the laudable drive for self-improvement and achievement. The true dilemma arises when success transmutes into the sole, all-encompassing criterion by which you measure the intrinsic value and worth of your entire life. It becomes problematic, even perilous, when it morphs into an external goal that insidiously consumes every facet of your existence, your most precious and finite resource, your time, your vital life force, your energy, your most fundamental and defining decisions, your choices, and the very essence of your human connections, your relationships. In this relentless pursuit, you embark on a dangerous process of systematically sacrificing integral parts of yourself. You might suppress your genuine interests, ignore your authentic desires, silence your unique sensibilities, and compromise your deepest values, all in the relentless and often desperate chase for this externally defined destination. And the more ardently, the more fiercely you chase this elusive there, the more you may come to the disquieting, almost terrifying realization that perhaps there isn't a definitive destination at all. Instead, it might merely be an endless, exhausting, and ultimately unfulfilling race, a perpetual hamster wheel from which there seems to be no escape. The finish line constantly recedes, leaving you perpetually striving, perpetually empty. Carl Jung, with his characteristic directness and profound psychological insight, was unequivocal in his assertion, "The unlived life is a disease from which one can die." This statement, at first glance, might strike you as radical, even somewhat alarmist in its bluntness, but take a moment, a genuine reflective pause, to truly contemplate its profound and unsettling meaning. Consider the multitude of individuals you personally know who have meticulously, even flawlessly, followed every prescribed step in the societal playbook for success. They have ticked every box, achieved every milestone. Yet, despite these outward triumphs, they often live in a chronic state of pervasive emotional unwellness. They might endure perplexing, recurring crises of anxiety or depression, navigate tragically broken relationships that defy understanding, or harbor a persistent, gnawing feeling that something is fundamentally wrong, despite their outwardly enviable achievements. This unsettling and widespread reality is far from a mere coincidence or an isolated anomaly. It is, chillingly, the direct and often devastating result of an existence profoundly disconnected from one's own vital, authentic essence. It is the psychic consequence of prioritizing external validation over internal integrity. Success that is built solely upon the precarious foundations of external goals demands an exorbitant and hidden price. It necessitates that you meticulously mold yourself, often contorting your true being, to fit seamlessly into environments that frequently fail to genuinely embrace, understand, or even tolerate who you truly are. It compels you to accept and embark upon arduous journeys that, almost imperceptibly, incrementally crush your inherent creativity, dampen your unique sensitivity, and relentlessly stifle your natural spontaneity. All of this, ironically and paradoxically, is often marketed, rationalized, and even celebrated as professional growth or personal development. The narrative suggests that shedding these inefficiencies makes you stronger, more adaptable. But what remains largely unspoken, what is conveniently omitted from this compelling narrative, is the stark and often tragic fact that for many individuals, this perceived growth comes at the harrowing and devastating cost of profound internal erosion. You might diligently ascend the corporate ladder, reaching heights that others envy, only to discover, perhaps too late in the journey, that the ladder itself is leaning precariously, dangerously against the wrong wall, a wall that leads nowhere, truly meaningful for your soul, and then you find yourself irrevocably ensnared, trapped within your own meticulously constructed edifice. The feeling is one of profound entrapment because you have invested an immeasurable amount of your precious time, your dwindling energy, and your very identity into this path, making the thought of abandoning it, of simply stepping away, seem utterly impossible, an act of colossal failure. You have painstakingly built an elaborate image, a public persona, that you now feel inexorably compelled to uphold, to defend at all costs. You have made so many deep, painful concessions to your true self, sacrificed so many genuine desires, that the very idea of turning back, of charting a new course, appears an insurmountable and terrifying task. This is precisely how success, in its conventional, externally driven form, transforms from a noble aspiration into a cunning, deceptive trap. It locks you into a life that you perceive you cannot abandon without bearing the crushing burden of feeling like a monumental, irreparable failure in the eyes of the world, and perhaps even in your own eyes. But here is the profound, liberating truth. True failure is not having the courage to change course when a path no longer serves your soul. True failure is relentlessly continuing on a path that systematically empties your soul, diminishes your spirit, and drains your vitality, simply because it works on paper, because it looks good on a resume or an Instagram feed. True failure is becoming someone you no longer recognize, someone foreign and unsettling to your own deepest self, simply to maintain appearances, to keep up a facade for others. True failure is consciously ignoring every internal warning sign, every whispered intuition, every aching sensation that screams, something is profoundly wrong, simply because the external world, with its loud, insistent voice, assures you that you are doing exceptionally well, that you are successful, that you are on the right track. The profoundly encouraging news, however, is that there is still precious time. But this invaluable opportunity for fundamental change, for a radical reorientation of your life, only exists if you possess the profound, often terrifying courage to confront the unvarnished truth head-on. Success without genuine, profound alignment with your authentic self is a subtle, yet deeply insidious form of self-sabotage. It's a slow-acting poison that masquerades as an elixir. And the sooner you grasp this fundamental reality, the more potent and abundant your chances become to embark on a journey of profound reinvention, to start over from a place that is undeniably more authentic, more resonant, and more deeply true to your innermost being. The crucial question that now emerges with compelling urgency is this: how can you discern, in practical, tangible terms, if you are indeed losing yourself? What are the concrete, discernible signs, the subtle yet persistent indicators that your precious soul is being systematically silenced, gradually suffocated by the relentless demands and pressures of your current lifestyle? This is precisely what we will meticulously explore in the next segment. We will bring this elusive and often abstract concept of disconnection down to the raw, real, and undeniable level of everyday experience, exposing how it begins, silently and almost imperceptibly, to corrode you from within, chipping away at your essence piece by agonizing piece. Signs of disconnection. You won't simply awaken one morning with a sudden jarring clarity, realizing definitively that you've irrevocably lost touch with who you authentically are. The disconnection from the self does not announce its arrival with blaring sirens, dramatic thunderclaps, or undeniable seismic shifts in your reality. Instead, it creeps in subtly, almost imperceptibly, establishing its insidious foothold slowly, with a collection of nuanced, often cleverly camouflaged signs interwoven into the mundane fabric of your everyday life. And it is precisely this stealthy, incremental, and unassuming nature that renders it so profoundly dangerous. By the time you finally take genuine notice, by the moment a flicker of recognition sparks, you might have already been living for months, sometimes even years, as a meticulously edited, carefully pruned version of yourself. A version expertly designed purely for efficient functionality in the external world, yet tragically, inherently, and increasingly incapable of genuine, uninhibited feeling. So, how can you discern with clarity and certainty if this silent, corrosive process is already well underway within you? Begin by meticulously observing your decisions. This is a powerful diagnostic tool. How many of the choices you make, particularly the significant ones, originate from a place of deep, resonant internal conviction, a profound, unequivocal yes that vibrates from your very core? And conversely, how many of them are primarily, or even solely, driven by the gnawing fear of disappointing others, the anxiety of stepping out of line, of deviating from an expected script, the pervasive dread of losing something, a relationship, a job, a status that others or society at large deem universally important, even if it feels hollow to you? When you articulate the words, "I want this," does that desire truly, genuinely emanate from your deepest, most authentic self, from your innermost being? Or is it merely an echo, a carefully rehearsed recitation of expectations that have been subtly, or perhaps overtly and forcefully, projected onto you by family, friends, colleagues, or the pervasive cultural narratives that surround you? This is a crucial distinction, often overlooked in the hustle of daily life, yet absolutely fundamental to understanding your current degree of self-alignment and authenticity. The answer to this question reveals whether you are living your life or a life prescribed for you. The pain of disappointing others. No profound personal transformation, no genuine journey of self-actualization ever transpires without navigating significant discomfort. It's an inherent part of the growth process, a necessary friction that facilitates change. And among the most profoundly feared, yet ultimately inevitable forms of this discomfort is the often agonizing experience of disappointing those around you. This pain is not merely hypothetical, it is a tangible emotional consequence of stepping into your authenticity. While you were diligently engaged in your previous performance, meticulously maintaining your persona, you largely managed to avoid this specific discomfort. Your conformity, your willingness to adapt, often smoothed over potential friction. But the moment you embark on the journey to reconnect with your authentic self, when you begin to assert your genuine needs, when you start to utter a firm no to requests or expectations that you previously accepted without question, when you courageously begin to establish clear, healthy boundaries where before there was only a boundless, accommodating adaptation, something fundamental shifts. And crucially, others feel this shift. They don't always react to it in a calm, understanding, or accepting manner. In fact, their reactions can often be charged with surprise, resentment, or even outright anger. You will start to perceive this disquieting shift in the myriad of small, often subtle reactions from those in your immediate sphere. It might manifest in the furrowed brow or irritated sigh of the colleague who suddenly feels bothered because you are no longer willing to uncritically fit into every team dynamic or shoulder extra burdens without protest. It could be the subtle, yet potent coldness from a relative who feels inexplicably offended because you bravely chose not to follow the life path they meticulously envisioned or perhaps even dictated for you. You might notice the palpable shock or awkward silence from a longtime friend who is taken aback by your newfound, unflinching honesty. Perhaps a truth that disrupts a comfortable, unspoken agreement in your friendship. And, perhaps most acutely, painful, you will sense that unspoken look of disappointment, a silent, powerful gaze that is not merely an expression of their feeling, but a covert, manipulative attempt to coerce you, to subtly make you revert to your old compliant role, to resume the performance they preferred. The stark truth in these moments is that when you courageously begin to live more authentically, more truly to yourself, you are, by definition, breaking invisible agreements. These are unwritten, often unconscious, emotional contracts that were never explicitly articulated, yet had been in powerful effect, subtly governing your relationships for years, sometimes even decades. These implicit pacts dictated your role, your responsibilities, and the precise ways you were expected to behave to maintain harmony or receive approval. And here lies the central illuminating point. Most people, at their core, are not genuinely disappointed in you, the evolving, authentic individual. No, their disappointment is far more complex and self-serving. They are, in reality, deeply disappointed in the version of you that they themselves meticulously created and became accustomed to. They are reacting to the loss of a comfortable, predictable archetype they had constructed for you in their minds, a persona that served their needs or reinforced their own worldview. Therefore, their disappointment is not truly with your emerging truth, with your newfound authenticity. Instead, it is inextricably linked to the image you so diligently maintained, the very image you now choose to shed, an image that was often necessary to sustain relationships that, upon closer inspection, may have been fundamentally unbalanced, conditional, or even disingenuous from their very inception. But this pain, this discomfort of disappointing others, which can feel so cruel and isolating at first, is also paradoxically a powerful and undeniable sign of rebirth. It is an intrinsic part of your liberation, because every single time you bravely disappoint someone by choosing to be profoundly true to your authentic self, you are simultaneously, within the deepest chambers of your own being, confirming a profound new pact. This new pact is not with an external entity. It is a solemn pact of unwavering loyalty to your own precious soul. This act requires immense, almost superhuman, courage. Why? Because the natural human impulse, deeply ingrained through years of conditioning, is to immediately give in, to retreat from the discomfort, to profusely apologize for daring to bother anyone, to frantically scramble back into the familiar, comforting confines of your old performance, all in a desperate attempt to preserve the affection, approval, or convenience of others. However, there is a brutal, undeniable detail that you must internalize. The ultimate price of avoiding this painful, yet necessary discomfort is simply too astronomically high. Avoiding the disappointment of others almost invariably means profoundly disappointing yourself. It entails a systematic act of self-betrayal. It means deliberately silencing your legitimate desires, consciously suffocating uncomfortable truths that yearn for expression, and passively accepting to live within relationships that are fundamentally based on outdated conditioning, unspoken expectations, and superficial convenience, rather than on the bedrock of genuine, reciprocal authenticity. Jung famously stated that individuation, the lifelong process of becoming one's unique, whole self, is at its core a profound process of separation. It is the courageous act of separating oneself from the undifferentiated masses, from inherited values that no longer resonate, from societal roles that have ceased to serve your highest good. This process of severing old ties, of shedding outdated skins, inherently hurts. It is a painful act of necessary amputation. For a significant period, you will undoubtedly appear strange, inconvenient, perhaps even overtly selfish in the eyes of those who cling to the old version of you. They may misunderstand your newfound boundaries as rejection, your authenticity as arrogance, but it is profoundly important to internalize and remember this crucial truth. There is no possible way to truly, authentically find yourself without simultaneously losing what is no longer or was never truly you. The shedding of the old, the inauthentic, is a prerequisite for the birth of the new, the genuine. And over time, as you steadfastly remain committed to this authentic path, something truly magical, truly transformative begins to happen. The relationships that endure, the connections that remain intact after this crucible of transformation become remarkably more real, profoundly more nourishing, and infinitely more fulfilling. Why? Because they are now firmly based on who you genuinely are, in your unvarnished truth, and not on what you previously offered as a convenient mirror to others' expectations or a protective shield against their disapproval. Furthermore, a new constellation of connections will begin to spontaneously arise, new friendships, new partnerships, new alliances. These burgeoning relationships will be based not on your old performance, but on a resonant truth, attracting individuals who vibrate at the same authentic frequency as you, who are drawn to your genuine self, not your carefully constructed facade. This marks the glorious beginning of a new cycle in your life. A cycle where success is no longer superficially measured by the fleeting sound of applause, by the arbitrary symbols of status, or by the transient nature of external acceptance. Instead, it is profoundly measured by something far deeper, infinitely quieter, and immeasurably more powerful. The innate, unwavering ability to recognize yourself clearly in the mirror of your soul and to feel, truly feel, an abiding sense of profound peace. This internal harmony becomes the ultimate metric of your achievement. In the final accounting of a life truly lived, as the dust settles and the external clamor fades, it becomes strikingly evident that the true measure of your existence is not determined by the sheer number of goals you meticulously achieved, nor by the impressive array of diplomas meticulously displayed on your wall, nor by the multitude of zeros meticulously adorning your bank statement. These are, in essence, mere superficial metrics, fleeting indicators of a game played by external rules. What truly, genuinely matters, what ultimately holds immeasurable weight, is what you perceive when you stand in front of the mirror of consciousness. This is not the mundane bathroom mirror, reflecting a mere physical visage, but the profound, unflinching mirror you face in the sacred silence of the night. It's the moment when all the carefully constructed masks inevitably fall away, when the insistent, distracting noise of the external world finally ceases its incessant clamor, and all that profoundly remains is the irreducible essence of you with yourself. This is the ultimate reckoning, a confrontation with your deepest truth. Carl Jung, with his characteristic wisdom and profound understanding of the human psyche, consistently reminded us that the soul has its own inherent rhythm, a unique cadence, distinct from the hurried pace of external ambition. The soul does not relentlessly chase after superficial goals. It is not, by its very nature, impressed or swayed by the transient allure of external achievements or material accumulation. What the soul authentically craves, what it perpetually yearns for, is truth. It yearns for profound integration, for the harmonious alignment of all its disparate parts. Above all, the soul seeks wholeness, a state of complete and unfragmented being. And if you expend the entirety of your precious life force relentlessly striving to fit yourself into external models of success, meticulously contorting your authentic self to conform to predefined societal molds, you will, with an almost tragic inevitability, systematically sacrifice what would truly, genuinely make you complete and deeply fulfilled. Your unique, irreplaceable authenticity. You will exchange your genuine self for a hollow imitation. True success, therefore, is not a finite finish line, a triumphant banner to be broken, or a gleaming "I made it" plaque proudly affixed to a wall. It is not a destination to be reached and then abandoned. Instead, it is a continuous, dynamic, and lifelong process of internal alignment. It is an unwavering commitment to live with profound courage, even when the unvarnished truth feels uncomfortable, unsettling, or even terrifying. It is a sacred pact with your own conscience, an unbreakable vow to never again abandon yourself, to never again betray your deepest needs and desires, even if it means facing the discomfort of disappointing others, the daunting prospect of starting entirely from scratch, or the profound isolation of making decisions that no one else in your immediate circle might understand or approve of. This integrity, this self-loyalty becomes your guiding star, and here lies the profound secret, a truth that far too few individuals possess the courage to utter aloud. Living your own truth, embracing your authentic self, will undoubtedly hurt. At first, the initial stages are often characterized by discomfort, fear, and even a sense of loss as you shed old identities and attachments. You may indeed lose some people from your life, those who were only connected to your old performance. You might forego certain opportunities that were tied to your previous, inauthentic path. You might even experience a temporary, unsettling loss of perceived stability as you navigate uncharted territory. But in this process of letting go, you will gain something infinitely more valuable, something that no amount of external achievement or material wealth in this world can ever offer: internal integrity. And believe, truly believe, that this hard-won internal integrity is the fundamental, unshakable foundation of any genuine, lasting happiness. It is the bedrock upon which a truly fulfilling life is built. If you have journeyed with us this far, if you have read these words to their conclusion, it is because something profound within you is already stirring, already awakening. Something deep within your being has already intuitively understood that you can no longer continue living a life that is merely half-hearted, a life that is fundamentally disconnected from your true essence. And it is precisely this something, this nascent awareness, this quiet yearning for authenticity that you need to listen to more closely, more attentively, and more consistently from this moment forward. Your inner compass is realigning. Now, with this deeper understanding, I want to hear from you. In what specific moment or during what particular period in your life did you most acutely feel that you were losing yourself? Or perhaps more powerfully, and looking towards the future, what are you truly ready to change, to transform from this very moment on to reclaim your authentic self? Write your reflections in the comments below. This is not merely a gesture of engagement. It is, more profoundly, an act of affirmation, a public and powerful step towards embracing your deepest truth. And if this message resonated with you, if it sparked a flicker of recognition within your soul, please do not stop here. The journey of self-knowledge is arduous and long, but every conscious, intentional step you take is a silent yet monumental victory over everything that conspired to make you forget who you truly are. Your authentic self awaits.